Hey everyone, welcome back to the Yossi Schmidt Show. Today we have the great Mario Kranjac on the podcast. Mario, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you for having me, Yossi. I'm the first Republican mayor of Englewood Cliffs in 42 years. I served 8 years. Well, I left it in good shape. I was succeeded by another Republican, so that was really nice to see. Worked hard, cut taxes, but didn't cut services, kept our schools and our children safe, didn't lock down during COVID. We could get into all that. So it was a good time. I self-imposed 2 terms as mayor, which no one else does in New Jersey. Unfortunately, the only term limited office is the governor's office. We'd have a lot better state if our legislators had term limits to follow. So we'll talk about that some more as well.
I hear. When, as running for governor, what are you focusing on? What's the main goal it came from?
One of the shocking things for me as an attorney who's been practicing for 35 years is just the lack of law and order in Englewood Cliffs when I took it over, but also in the state of New Jersey today. First, we have to get rid of the sanctuary state status of New Jersey, and we should not have any cities with sanctuary state status. The only immigration policy is the federal policy, and the states need to cooperate with the federal government. If they don't, as Governor Murphy has said, then you're violating your oath of office if you're the governor. People need to think long and hard about the oaths that they're taking if they're not going to follow them. Our law enforcement needs to follow their oath of office, which is to help federal agents. We have about 500,000 illegal aliens in New Jersey, which cost us a lot of money. It takes away from our schools and other places that everybody is here unlawfully. And we need to take care of Americans first.
So you would comply with ICE, work with President Trump, and you definitely wouldn't say that working with the Constitution is above your pay grade.
Absolutely not. Donald Trump needs governors to work with this. He needs judges to follow the laws as well. You asked me what else that I would do. I could do for New Jersey what I did in Englewood Cliffs. When I became mayor, we cut taxes and did not cut services. The way we did that was we cut out all the waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption out of our budget. The state of New Jersey is full of towns like this, costing the state so much money and its taxpayers. When I took over Englewood Cliffs, I had a police chief in charge of 26 police officers getting paid $233,000 a year, which was $50,000 more than Commissioner Kelly was getting to run the New York City Police Department. And he had 50,000 police officers to manage. So you see what happens in New Jersey is these political appointees and friends supported the political people who appointed them get compensated for doing things to support them and maybe things they shouldn't have done, which was the case of my police chiefs. We need to cut a lot of that extra out of our budget. We have a $56 billion budget right now. It should be more like 40 or 45 billion. And you could do that right off the bat by cutting so much waste. And of course, if you have 500,000 less illegal aliens to take care of, you're on a good start there as well.
What would you do? So you did Doge before Doge was popular, before Doge became a thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, we did Doge. We just didn't have a great name like Doge for it. So I wish we had thought of it, the name, but we didn't. The most important thing is that substantively we did what our federal Doge is doing. We will have a New Jersey Doge as well. You can see when they're over the target for Doge, when you see all the senators and Congress people trying to stop them from looking at how they became fabulously wealthy as congressmen and senators on a senator or a congressman's salary, the money came from somewhere. You didn't buy all those houses if you're even Joe Biden on a senator's salary. Americans need to be informed, and then they can make the right decisions at the polling stations.
I hear. So let me ask you, as someone who lives here in Lakewood schools are broke with $65 million in state loans to repay, and the funding formula is trash. How do you fix it? Would you forgive the loans and turn it into grants? What would you do?
So we should have school choice, right? The money should follow the child so that parents could send their children to schools that are high performing or that align with their values and their religion better than what's available at the public level. Unfortunately, there should be no public employee unions. They should not exist, because what happens is the unions negotiate with the legislators the have taken their money for their campaigns. And then they're on the other side of the contract. So there's a huge conflict of interest. And the only way we could avoid that conflict of interest is to get the public worker unions scrapped completely. We didn't have those until Lyndon Johnson made them legal. In terms of public schools, we need to protect our teachers, and they need to be rewarded and compensated based on merit. What's happened in New Jersey, and I saw it starting to happen in Englewood Cliffs, I put it into it. They start hiring a lot of administrators and consultants who don't add anything to the actual education mission of the school. And moreover, those are the same consultants who push things like critical race theory, diversity, equity, inclusion programs, social emotional learning, and appropriate books. I stopped all that in Englewood Cliffs. We never did that, even though the state of New Jersey requires that in the written curriculum, you have all those non-core issues in the curriculum. The schools are there to educate, not indoctrinate. Math, American history, science, English, civics, those are what should be taught. The parents could teach their children everything else that they want to teach, when they want to teach, and how they want to teach. There should be no co-parenting with the government. And we also kept boys out at the girls' sports, which is, that's completely ridiculous. It's just a lot of adults with issues trying to push those issues onto children. We raised 3 children. You only have one chance to have a childhood and to raise a child correctly. You don't get to do it over. The Democrats need to realize that, and some of the Republicans too, who have been soft on these issues. In terms of what happened financially in Lakewood and other towns, we need to resolve that and correct the situation with the focus and the goal being education, right? The money that's been spent and not actually resulting in any good educations or rewards, that's money that's been spent. People just take a look at it. Going forward, we should make sure that doesn't happen again and the children are educated properly. And I think that'll lead to a better society overall. And Governor Murphy and the legislators, they're so caught up in the culture of death where they're willing to pay for people to come to New Jersey to have abortions, right? It's completely crazy and irrational to do things like that. So we need to create a culture of life. And that's one of my missions as well.
I hear. So you're turning to grads, or you would just make school choice?
Yeah, absolutely. The money should follow the child.
I hear. A listener sent in, he wants to make New Jersey more American. Dirt bike events, legal off-roading, and more gun carry freedom. What's your plan?
Well, I mean, that's part of America, right? There's other parts of America, if you're more into sports than into motocross or motorsports, we shouldn't have limits on those things. There's this creep to the bottom where what's happened is, if you saw what happened in Englewood Cliffs a few years ago, Unilever's subsidiary Ben & Jerry's was going to refuse to sell ice cream to the West Bank, right? I was the only mayor in America, and because they were in Englewood Cliffs, I think it really prompted me to do this. I challenge the CEO of Unilever to not do that. It's ice cream. It should make everybody happy. It's an American thing, right? No matter where in the world you are, you should get that. The Jerusalem Post picked up on that, and I guess eventually they resolved it. They didn't really take a hard position in terms of forcing their subsidiary, Ben & Jerry's. They just creep down to the bottom in a lot of things in terms of limiting access to public lands for things that environmentalists don't like. If you want to ride a dirt bike on a sanctioned track, we should have that ability. If you want to carry, you should be able to carry lawfully, right? We've had so many limits and restrictions placed on us as Americans. We've had a lot of our rights curtailed, taken away. Meanwhile, they're basically pushing an agenda that doesn't work for anyone, just costs taxpayers money, like, EV mandates, right? For example, this doesn't work. We had 2 nuclear power plants in New Jersey, which is clean energy. Even the European Union considers it green energy. When we had 2 of those, they provided 40% of our electricity, of which 80% was what we considered green energy in New Jersey. Windmills don't do enough. It's not possible for them to do enough. You'd have to see a windmill everywhere you look to even make a dent. So it's kind of foolhardy, but it's a moneymaker for politicians and the people who back them. Rather than kill whales and destroy the ocean floor, just put some more nuclear power plants. The technology has come so far along where you could have modular nuclear plants generate sufficient electricity. Right now, New Jersey's going to be an electrical desert in a few months because so much has gone offline. We need to bring back online some of the coal burning plants and convert them to natural gas, which burns clean. The progressives have destroyed the state. And they were able to get away with it as long as the federal government kept funding these crazy projects. Thankfully, now that we have President Trump, that's all stopped. And we still have a need for electricity and other things that have been taken away from us.
Once we're on the topic of clean energy and the environment, would you bring back plastic bags?
If you want a plastic bag at the checkout, that's fine. I think a lot of people will just bring their own. I think my whole thing is that you have a choice. If you want to use a store bag, that's fine for free. Or if you have your own bag and you want to carry your own groceries, that's fine also. It shouldn't make a difference, right? I mean, it worked fine when the stores had people packing. A lot of the packers there were programs set up to help disabled youth to be packers at supermarkets. And it gave them a sense of purpose and contact with society. Governor Murphy took that away when he got rid of the plastic bags at stores.
Right. I know a lot of people are upset about the plastic bag ban.
Yeah. And by the way, I always forget to bring my bags in the store. So then I got a shopping cart full of groceries that I have to figure out how to get home.
I know in Lakewood they have bags for you, but they charge. They
Right.
have the reusable bags. And you pay for those bags, bring them home, and then get stockpiles of bags that you never bring back in grocery store.
And it's not like they cut food prices when you had to bring your own bag. Nothing changed, right? You just didn't get a bag. The prices went up a bit.
Nothing changed. Governor Murphy did a lot of amazing things for our state. Now, this is a big topic that a follower on X, actually a follower that's been pushing for me to interview you. They go by the username Common Sense. They submitted, what's your take on a digital dollar? So they call it a surveillance tool. The crypto digital currency. What's your take on it?
That's a federal issue, right? I think the U.S. will have a digital currency backed by the U.S. dollar, which makes a lot of sense. At the state level, this country started with all the colonies issuing their own currencies, and that didn't work. So they had to unify and systemize it all to the U.S. dollar, which led to a lot of prosperity. I do believe President Trump is in the process of rolling out some form of a U.S. digital dollar, which will make a lot of sense. Also, what I liked that he did was, rather than just giving grants for technology development or promoting certain companies, he's creating a sovereign fund. And that way our taxpayers, the U.S. taxpayers, will have a participation in that. It won't just be non-dilutive equity being given to these companies in the form of a grant. The state of New Jersey, and I think some other states are also going to do it eventually. I think the state of New Jersey should also have its own state sovereign fund, although we're not sovereign. I don't like to use that word around the state, but a state fund, a state venture fund. And the reason I don't like to use the word sovereign when it relates to New Jersey or any state or part of a country, and Governor Murphy misses that when he thinks New Jersey is a standalone country that doesn't have to adhere to federal law. There's one country, we're all part of it. The 50 states are part of it, and they need to act like that. But yes, we can find ways for the taxpayers to not just give money away. By the way, when people start throwing their hands up in the air and screaming about how he's cutting funding for sciences, he's really not doing that. What he's cutting is the overhead. In the past, under Biden, if you gave a National Institute of Health grant, 60% of it would go to actual research and 40% would go to university overhead. Not enough science is being done in that scenario. The schools were just getting a free ride. What President Trump is doing is you're still going to get 100%, but you have to use at least 85% of it for actual science. And you could use 15% for overhead. So the end result should be more good science, more good therapies, more good treatments, more good technologies derives from all that.
I hear. Do you agree that the central bank digital currency can be used as a surveillance tool?
Well, it depends how it's registered and how it's linked to you. Look, we have to be careful because like all technologies, there's good uses and there's evil uses, right? So the government needs to make sure that it's not the digital currency is not used to circumvent laws, hurt people, or take advantage of people. So like all technologies, it can be used for good to make transactions go smoother. The blockchain technology is being used in other aspects of our economy as well, like identification, asset tracking, and things that work well. Digital currency could work well too. If you're not up to something bad, then you shouldn't care how it's registered. I think that's been a big impediment for the federal government to roll it out already, but I'm sure it'll come out.
I hear. And now the race is very competitive. There's even a candidate that tried getting you disqualified.
He lost all 3 times.
Pitch yourself to the Yossi Schmidt Show, Digital Free Press listener.
Okay, so right off the bat, I'm the only candidate who actually has a track record of beating Democrats in political machines. Did that twice in a town that didn't have a Republican mayor for 42 years. So I was the first to do that. At the end of January, the poll that was taken of New Jersey Republican primary voters, 47% were still undecided. And this is after Jack has been running for 9 years, spending millions of dollars, not really moving the needle, and he's a never Trumper. Bill Spadia, who was a radio show host, spent over a year running and lots of money. He's also paid himself $225,000 out of his own campaign, which is ridiculous. And he was also a never Trumper. And both of them have now come around to say that they're Trumpers, but they're opposite sides of the same Trump-hating coin. I call them Spatterelli. I just put them together. They're the same thing. And they've never run anything. They've never been executives. New Jersey needs somebody who could run the state, run a town, run businesses. John Bramnick is still a never Trumper. He's always declared that he's a never Trumper. And he's actually the guy who voted in favor of inappropriate books being in schools. Jack voted for people to be able to change their genders on their birth certificates, which defies science, right? No matter what you do to your body, you're still going to have either doing that by just saying it or by surgery. I think they're all lacking in a lot of ways. Newt Gingrich endorsed me, and that's a great endorsement to have because he is really the thought leader of the Republican Party right now. The day I announced I was running at the beginning of February, we had 1,000 signatures that we had to get to be on the ballot. The day after, it went up to 2,500 with one last week to do it. So we turned in 3,100 signatures. We expanded the Republican Party because you're allowed to have independent or non-affiliated voters sign your petition. When they sign it, they become Republican. So we actually expanded the Republican Party. Bill Spadia sued to negate a lot of those signatures and knock me out. He lost. The Secretary of State agreed with me. Then he appealed it. He's lost 3 times. He spent a lot of money trying to do that. We are right now suing right back because it was frivolous litigation. We sent them frivolous litigation letters and made a claim for those fees. They should never have done that, and we're going to prevail on that for sure. I'm the only one with a plan. I'm the only one who ever did anything. People know that I'm not actually a politician. This is not what I do for a living. This is a duty for me to do this. For them, it's a career path. For them, they're elitists. They want to be part of the political clique. I don't. I want to be part of the taxpayers who are trying to solve problems.
I hear. All right, Mario, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. It was really fun. Yeah.
I would love to see you here in Lakewood. Let's see what we can do. See you next episode where we hold everyone accountable and keep pushing the digital free press.
Thank you, Yossi.